Unit 10, page 114, Exercise 2.
Marco Polo, 1254 to 1324, the son of a merchant, was born in Venice. With his uncle and father, he left home in 1271 and traveled overland to China, a route that became known as the Silk Road. He finally returned to Italy 25 years later.
David Livingstone, 1813 to 1873, a Scottish explorer and doctor, explored much of Central Africa. In 1866, he set out to look for the source of the Congo River. He never came back. During his travels, Livingstone visited many places where no European had been before.
Christopher Columbus, 1451 to 1506, wanted to discover a new route to India. He believed the quickest route was to sail west from Europe. He set sail in 1492 and arrived in the area now known as the Americas on October 12th. He thought he had arrived in India.
Page 115, Exercise 2.
And radio listeners, if you've just joined us, we're discussing some great stories from a new book called Female Explorers of the 19th and 20th Centuries. Can you tell us about any women who traveled to Asia, Marcia?
Yes, Gary. One amazing woman was Alexandra David Néel, a French explorer born in Paris in 1868. Have you heard of her?
Well, no, I have to admit that I haven't, Marcia.
Alexandra David Néel was born in Paris on October 24th, 1868. As a young woman, she was very interested in Asia and Asian languages. So when she was given some money as part of an inheritance, she decided to use it to fulfill one of her great ambitions, to travel to Tibet. Now, at that time, Tibet was forbidden to foreigners, closed to people from other countries. David Néel tried to make the journey into Tibet 4 times, but each time she was discovered and sent back. In 1924, she decided to try again. This time, she traveled with her adopted Tibetan son, Yongden. They carried food, a knife to cut firewood, a tent, and leather to repair their boots. They traveled at night. During the day, they hid so that no one would see them. On their trip, they had many adventures. 4 months later, they reached Lhasa, the capital city of Tibet. Now they had one last problem. How could they enter the city without being seen?
And what did they do?
Well, Gary, suddenly, while they were thinking of a plan, a sandstorm began. It covered Lhasa, and everyone rushed into their houses for protection. This was their opportunity, and they entered the city. They had arrived. David Néel and Yongden spent 2 months in Lhasa. They visited the famous Potala Palace and enjoyed the festivals celebrating the Tibetan New Year. They were very worried that they might be discovered and ordered to leave, so they told no one who they really were. When finally it was time to go, they left the city as quietly and secretly as they had arrived. Now they had another long journey to India and home.
And I bet that after that trip, all she wanted to do was get home, have a long hot bath, and set off again.
You're absolutely right, Gary. David Néel continued traveling in Asia for years and wrote many books about her adventures. She died in 1969 at the age of 101.
Page 116, Exercise 2. Essentials for a camping trip.
If you're going on a camping trip, here's a guide for several things you're going to need. Most important is a good tent.
1. I.
You'll also need a sleeping bag.
2. K.
and a sleeping pad.
3. N.
To put under the sleeping bag because it can get very cold at night. Hot food and drinks are another great way to keep warm. For this, you'll need a stove.
4. F.
For cooking and some pots and pans.
5. J.
For heating food and water. Don't forget to take matches.
6. L.
To light the stove. If you're going to be hiking a lot, you'll certainly need a good pair of hiking boots.
7. B.
A waterproof jacket
8. M.
will also be very important when the weather is bad. What about emergencies? A first aid kit
9. G.
is very important for injuries or sickness, and a sewing kit
10. C.
can be used to repair clothes. Many problems are caused by getting lost, so take a map
11. H.
and a compass.
12. D.
Also bring a whistle.
13. E.
In an emergency, blow it 6 times. And finally, you need a good backpack
14. A.
to carry all of this in.
Pages 118 and 119. Exercises 3 and 4.
Livingstone and the Lion. David Livingstone was a Scottish missionary and explorer. He was born in 1813 and died in 1873. He led many expeditions in Africa, searching for the source of the Nile River. He was unusual for a Western explorer because he traveled lightly, without a lot of equipment and supplies. He treated the native people with respect and traded with them. On his third expedition into the African interior in 1843, Livingstone discovered the Mbatsa Valley. It was so beautiful that he decided to stay for a while and explore the region. There was, however, one big problem: lions. This was a region famous for the ferocity of its lions. Humans were frequently attacked by these wild animals. Livingstone decided to try to solve the problem. He had heard that if you kill one lion, the rest of the lions leave the area. So he set off with a native friend, Mbalwe, to kill a lion. After walking for several hours, Livingstone and Mbalwe found the trail of a lion. They crept quietly through the bush until they saw it. Livingstone took his gun and he shot the lion. But while he was preparing to fire the gun again, he was attacked by the lion. Mbalwe picked up the gun, but when the lion saw the movement, it attacked him as well. Fortunately, before it could kill Mbalwe, the lion died from the first gunshot that Livingstone had fired. Livingstone's arm was very badly injured. He couldn't use it properly for the rest of his life. The story does have a happy ending, however. After shooting the lion, Livingstone went back to the village of Kuruman, where his arm was treated and he was able to recover. He spent a lot of time here with an English woman, Mary Moffat. They were married in 1844, and they went back to the Mbatsa Valley to live.
Page 120. Exercise 3.
See for yourself. Every year, millions of people travel on famous routes and take transportation that is well known the world over. Even if you've never been to Italy, who hasn't heard of the Venetian gondolas? So what is the attraction of using transportation that could be slow, uncomfortable, or expensive? Maybe, in part, to just be able to say you did it. It would be a lot faster and easier to fly from St. Petersburg to Vladivostok in Russia than take the Trans-Siberian Railway. But then you wouldn't see the expanse of Russia, Mongolia, and China outside your window. The Inca Trail is traveled by so many people that the Peruvian government has been forced to limit the number of people allowed access. Why bother with such a well-traveled path? Well, for starters, who would want to miss walking through a cloud forest or seeing the glorious ruins of Machu Picchu? San Francisco, California, in the United States, has underground trains, modern buses, and taxis at the wave of a hand. Why would anyone want to take old, very loud, very slow cable cars? Certainly not for the comfort. But would you really be able to say that you left your heart in San Francisco if you didn't? The history of Egypt is known by people all over the world. Why spend all that money and time taking a cruise on the Nile River? There are plenty of picture books at your local library. Maybe it has something to do with the magic of seeing the temples at Luxor from the ancient waterway that made this great civilization possible. People have been traveling the Silk Road between China and Europe for thousands of years. Little has changed since caravans carried silk and other valuable products to different trading cities. Is there anything new to be learned? Perhaps the answer to that question lies in riding a camel of your own or watching the sun set over the Gobi Desert. The Way of St. James is the pilgrimage to the Cathedral of Santiago de Compostela in northwestern Spain. People have been making this journey for more than 1,000 years. People continue to do so today, on foot, by bicycle, and even on horseback. Hasn't this route been traveled enough times already? Not if you haven't traveled hard to lay eyes on the cathedral yourself. The Grand Canyon in Arizona in the United States has many beautiful hotels overlooking the scenery. Why would anyone travel by donkey down dangerous trails into the canyon to camp? Maybe it has something to do with waking up in your tent deep down in the canyon next to the river that carved this wonder of nature over millions of years. What about you? Which excursion would you choose?
Page 121. Pronunciation. Exercise 1.
Say the word learn aloud. The letters E-A-R have the sound. Listen and underline the sound in these words.
1,
Certainly.
2,
Circle.
3,
Emergency.
4,
First aid kit.
5,
Journey.
6.
Return.
Page 121. Pronunciation. Exercise 2. 1,
Turn. Tuesday. Thursday.
2,
Girl. Third. There.
3,
There. Were. Verb.
4,
Word. World. More.
Page 122. Exercises 2 and 3.
Hello, how can I help you?
Hi, I'm looking for a tent.
Okay. What kind of tent are you looking for?
Well, I'm not really sure. It has to be lightweight, waterproof, and big enough for 2 people.
Okay. What about this one? It's a 2-person tent. It's very lightweight and completely waterproof.
Yeah, that looks good. How much is it?
$95.
Sounds good. I'll take it.
Great. Let me ring you up.
Review 2. Page 129. Reading. Exercises 1 and 2.
Astronauts in space. Just like people on Earth, astronauts have different jobs in space. Some astronauts fly the spacecraft. Other astronauts work with the equipment that's launched into space. For instance, they conduct scientific experiments or replace parts of satellites. Astronauts' tasks can be divided into 4 main areas. Astronauts work mostly with the transportation of equipment, new modules, and food supplies for the International Space Station. On the space station, astronauts spend much of their time keeping the station in good condition both inside and outside. Almost daily, some astronauts take spacewalks to maintain the station. First and foremost, the station itself must be assembled. New modules arrive regularly, and the task of attaching them to the station take a long time. Weightlessness requires astronauts to spend a considerable amount of time keeping in shape. Astronauts work out every day. Astronauts on a spacecraft exercise half an hour a day, but astronauts on the space station have to spend 2 hours a day exercising to stay healthy. So, astronauts are usually very busy. But if they find themselves with nothing to do, they can pass the time just looking out the window. What a view!